Всем привет! Мы продолжаем читать Гарри Поттер по-русски, and we're going to continue comparing the Russian translation to the original. Okay, just a quick note: these videos take a while for me to create, so I will keep releasing them as long as I see some kind of activity in the comments. So if you find it useful, if you find it interesting, or if you have further questions, please engage with the material somehow, so I know that it's useful. Okay, начинаем. So last time we stopped right here at получить, and today we're gonna read that line and the whole page 6. Okay, let me first read it. Но когда он подъехал к Лондону, заполнившие его голову дрели вылетели оттуда в мгновение ока, потому что, попав в обычную утреннюю автомобильную пробку и от нечего делать, глядя по сторонам, мистер Дурсель заметил, что на улицах появилось множество очень странно одетых людей. A very long sentence. So let's take a look what's going on here. So first of all, we have the word подъехал к Лондону. So подъехал uses the prefix pod, which means kind of like to approach something. And then we have the word ехал, and in between we have the hard sign. So in the prefix pod means like to approach something. In the English translation, they had but on the edge of town. And I think подъехал к Лондону is a good translation for kind of like approaching the edge of town. I probably would say it exactly like that in Russian. And just a quick note about the hard sign. Remember that we need it when we have to pronounce that letter in full. So without it would be поди, and now it is подъехал к Лондону. Окей. Дрели вылетели оттуда в мгновение ока. Вылететь is also a verb of motion with the prefix v. So v is always something was here and now it's not. So there was like kind of like some kind of a threshold. So here drills were driven out of his mind is what we have in English, and in Russian I think it's a very good way to translate, because in Russian we have this expression вылететь из головы. For example, to like completely forget about something, we can say у меня это совсем вылетело из головы. I just like blanked on it. В мгновение ока. So here we don't even have anything to, in the original we don't have anything like that. It happened very quickly, but в мгновение ока means like very, very quickly, like in one blink of an eye. So as you can see here, this is where the sentence stops. And then we have, as he said, in the usual morning traffic jam. And I would say, пока он сидел в обычной утренней пробке, he couldn't help noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about. Он не мог не заметить, что почему-то там было много странно одетых людей. And my translation is of course literal, word for word, not literary, something you would read. So let's take a look at the literary translation. So here these sentences are a little bit more complex. So дрели вылетели, да, вылетели из головы, потому что попав, and that's the past tense gerund, yeah? So basically means like after he got into, yeah, so it's from the verb попасть, and then when попал would be the past tense, and once we remove that, we would add the prefix v, попав. So literally that whole word means after he got into обычную утреннюю автомобильную пробку, и от нечего делать. глядя по сторонам. От нечего делать is also kind of like a good colloquial expression. It's like while idling, while being bored. От нечего делать, when we start like we're so bored out of our mind that от нечего делать мы начинаем читать, убираться, and so on. And then глядя по сторонам, глядя is an present tense active gerund. That's basically while looking around. While looking around, мистер Дурсель заметил, he noticed, что на улицах появилось множество очень странно одетых людей. So много or множество, множество is a synonym for this word. And here we have странно одетых людей, just like I said, it's strangely dressed people. So, and then in English, we have people in cloaks. And here we have людей в мантиях. So I know like when you look at it by itself, you would say probably люди for people. But here this part kind of is the extension of this one. And here we have множество or много requires genitive, plural. And here we're basically implying that the word много or множество is here. Много людей в мантиях, and that's why it's not in the nominative case here. Okay, let's keep reading. Мистер Дурсель не переносил людей в нелепой одежде. Да и взять хотя бы нынешнюю молодежь, которая расхаживает, черт знает в чем. И вот теперь эти, нарядившиеся по какой-то дурацкой моде. Okay, let's take a look what we have here. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes. Мистер Дурсель не переносил. Переносить literally means to transfer one thing, to transfer a thing from one place to another by carrying it in your hands. For example, when we are moving furniture, мы ее переносим из этой комнаты в другую. But here, переносить also means to like can't stand. So, for example, you can say, я не переношу. Когда I can't stand it when, and then I explain what it is. Я не переношу. It's an interesting way of using the verb of motion in a not in a direct sense. Okay, so он не переносил кого? Людей в нелепой одежде. So here we have funny, but in Russian, like it's somewhat hard to translate funny. So we can say забавный, we can say как бы веселенькой. But in this case, it's clearly critical. So in this case, the word нелепый, да, нелепый, нелепая в нелепой одежде, I think it's a very good translation to kind of like show kind of like funny in a weird way, the one that we kind of like don't approve of. Okay, and then we have the взять. So here in Russian we have an interesting expression, взять хотя бы. So взять хотя бы means, for example. So, взять хотя бы наше прошлое собрание. So let's take, for example, our last meeting or something like that. Взять хотя бы тебя. Let's take you, for example. Которая расхаживает черт знает в чем. Черт знает в чем literally means devil knows in what. And we have these expressions like черт знает что, черт знает как, like in a way that's like the expression черт знает что really means something that's completely stupid, something that doesn't make sense. Черт знает как. Например, этот мастер сделал работу черт знает как. in a way that's like it was not good, not efficient. The result was bad. So черт знает как. Or we can also add like words like где. Черт знает где. Like этот магазин находится черт знает где. Like somewhere it's hard to find. We don't really, don't want to go there. Like we don't like it. So when people in Russian use this expression, they usually express their negative attitude to something. Okay, и вот теперь идти. So это, that is a demonstrative pronoun this. But in Russian, we also use the word этот or это to kind of like show a negative attitude to a person. И этот сказал мне, and like this person told me, и потом к нам подошла эта и сказала. So in context, of course, a person has to know who we're talking about, but just the use of this specific pronoun shows clearly a negative attitude from the speaker towards that person. Окей, и вот теперь эти нарядившиеся по какой-то дурацкой моде. I already forgot what it said here. Okay, so Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes, the get-ups you saw in young people. So here it's, I would say, much simpler. So прикиды или одежду, которые можно увидеть на молодежи или которые носит молодежь. He supposed this was some stupid new fashion. So он подумал, что это была какая-то новая дурацкая мода. That's, like literally how we would say it. And here we have actually дурацкая мода right now. So по моде is literally means it literally means according to some fashion, according to some fashion trend. Okay, let's continue. Мистер Дурсель забарабанил пальцами по рулю. Short sentence. Take a look. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Look how interesting. Here the sentence actually continues. And his eyes fell on a huddle of these weirdos standing quite close by. So he забарабанил пальцами по рулю. That's the, the motion, and I'd say that's exactly what drumming means. And его взгляд упал на сгрудившихся неподалеку странных типов, оживленно шептавшихся друг с другом. So here we have a separate sentence. They were whispering excitedly together. So he drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. Да, он забарабанил пальцами по рулю, or он побарабанил пальцами по рулю, and his eyes fell. Here we have его взгляд упал, and that's a great translation for his eyes. Literally, his glance fell. On a huddle of these weirdos, на группу этих странных типов, которые стояли довольно близко. So here we have упал на сгрудившихся неподалеку странных типов. So неподалеку. We need the you here. Сгрудиться, so грудь means breast or chest. Сгрудиться means to kind of like be in a tight, standing very close to each other, like chest to chest. Сгрудились люди. So like when I hear this word, I know there's a group of people that are standing very close together for whatever reason. And here we have оживленно шептавшихся друг с другом. Both сгрудившихся and шептавшихся. These words, as we can see this вши, this is the past tense active participle. So literally the ones that were standing close together, the ones that were whispering with each other. And usually ся kind of implies друг с другом, but we still need to say it. So even though like we're basically doubling our efforts to convey the idea. So шептавшихся, I can put a period here, but it sounds better друг с другом. Шептавшихся друг с другом. Okay. Мистер Дурсель пришел в ярость, увидев, что некоторые из них совсем не молоды. Подумать только, один из мужчин выглядел даже старше него, а позволил себе облачиться в изумрудно-зеленую мантию. Okay, so here we have Mr. Dursley was enraged. Да, пришел в ярость. To see. Here we have увидев, and you already know that this в shows us that it's past gerund, past active gerund. So after he saw, увидев, что некоторые из них, some of them, совсем не молодые, are actually not young. Yeah, weren't young at all. And here we have подумать только. Goodness. That's basically how we express our surprise. Подумать только. Он мне не позвонил. Goodness, he didn't even call me. Один из мужчин выглядел даже старше него. He looked even older than him. А позволил себе облачиться в изумрудно-зеленую мантию. Позволить is an interesting word. Позволить себе is basically give yourself permission to act in an unexpected way. And in Russian we have an expression «что вы себе позволяете?» Что вы себе позволяете? Which means who do you think you are? Again, we have ну и тип. And here, what we have here? Why that means so here with an exclamation point, ну и тип, again, it's similar to what we had like type. So literally it means type, but we also use it to describe a person we're suspicious about or not approving of. Этот тип подошел ко мне и сказал, and that weird dude came over to me and said. Okay, let's continue. Но тут мистера Дурсля осенила мысль, что эти непонятные личности наверняка всего лишь собирают пожертвования или что-нибудь в этом роде. Mr. Dursley, sorry, the nerve of him. Oh, here we had the nerve of him, like ну и тип. Okay, sorry. But okay, so continue. But it struck Mr. Dursley that this was probably some silly stunt. These people were obviously collecting for something. Yes, that would be it. So here так оно и есть, kind of goes with it. Так оно и есть. So осенить is actually, осенила мысль is a very interesting expression. We have this меня осенило is when you get an idea, like all of a sudden, let's say you have a problem and you're thinking about it for a while and you cannot come with an answer, and then all of a sudden it just strikes you and you have the answer. So for Russian, we use the word осенило. Меня осенило. It finally came to me, kind of like eureka moment. And it comes from the word сень, which means shadow. For example, you probably, at some point, you will see something like под сенью дерева или дуба. Under the shadow of the tree. And that's a very poetic way to express the idea of the shadow. And another way to use it is осенять себя or somebody else или кого-то крестом. Is kind of like cross your heart. Yeah? A religious, like осенять себя крестом. Okay, so that's осенила мысль, что эти непонятные личности собирают пожертвования. Okay, yeah, we're collecting for something. Silly stunt. I would say kind of like какая-то дурацкая акция. But the way it's translated is pretty good. Okay, yes, that would be it. Так оно и есть. I would say так и есть is a stronger way to express that would be it would. To me, there is still kind of suspicion that or doubt that it might not be like that. But when you say так оно и есть in Russian, we're like, yes, that's exactly how it was. Or that's exactly how it is. Like we had a, a hunch about something, and now we have the proof. Okay. Стоявшие в пробке машины наконец тронулись с места, и несколько минут спустя мистер Дурсель въехал на парковку фирмы Граннингс. The traffic moved on, and a few minutes later Mr. Dursley arrived in the parking lot, his mind back on drills. Okay, so его голова снова была забита дрелями. I think it's pretty straightforward translation. So the traffic moved on. So here the translator just added some more стоявшие пробки. And again, just like here, we had that participle. So the ones that were standing in the traffic jam, these cars finally started going. And несколько минут спустя, спустя is another way to say через. So и через несколько минут or несколько минут спустя are synonymous. Он въехал. So in въехал, again, like we were here and now we're here. Въехал на парковку. И его голова снова была забита дрелями. Кабинет мистера Дурсля находился на 9-м этаже, где он всегда сидел спиной к окну. Mr. Dursley always sat with his back to the window in his office on the 9th floor. That's pretty much it. I want to kind of like focus on this сидел спиной. So as you can see, so he sat with his back. We do use instrumental case спиной, and other kind of like positions would be лицом. Например, встань лицом ко мне. Another way is боком, kind of like with one side. Он стоял боком ко мне. And as you can see, in this kind of like position context, we use instrumental case. Oh, look, next one is a pretty interesting sentence. Предпочитай он сидеть лицом к окну, и ему, скорее всего, трудно было бы этим утром сосредоточиться на дрелях. If he hadn't sitting with his back, he might have found it harder to concentrate on drill this moment. So if he hadn't, it's an interesting, so here we have a hypothetical, and usually we express the hypothetical like that with если бы. So what we're saying here, если бы он сидел лицом к окну, то он бы то-то и то-то. So that would be the way to just like say it in, in the most standard way. But here we have the word предпочитай. Предпочитай. And предпочитать means to prefer something. And предпочитай is actually an imperative, like a command form for предпочитать. And actually, it's a very interesting stylistical context in Russian, where we replace the если бы with imperative of the perfective verb. So, for example, another example would be, so basically the translation would be like, if only. If only he preferred to be sitting with his face to the window, then he would have noticed something. So another example would be, we can say like, позвони ты мне вчера. Позвони ты мне вчера. Я бы тебе рассказала. Я бы тебе рассказала что-то интересное. But since you didn't call me yesterday, you're not gonna find out what I could have told you. So this like, if only you gave me a call yesterday, and you can hear probably this in my intonation will kind of like, well, missed your chance. So that's kind of like a very interesting a very interesting expression that we use, and probably kind of like one of those Russian expressions that's hard for foreigners to figure out by themselves. So, okay, сосредоточиться на дрелях, но он сидел к окну спиной и не видел пролетающих сов. Подумать только, сов, летающих не ночью, когда им и положено, а средь бела дня. He didn't see the owls swooping past in broad daylight. The people down in the street did. They pointed. Okay, so here we can see the syntax, or like the sentences are different, where the translator. So here we have a pretty long sentence, but the translator actually broke it down. Actually, that's interesting. The translator actually added this whole thing. И это уже не говоря о том, что совы, лесные птицы и в городах, тем более таких больших, как Лондон, не живут. Okay, did we see it in the original? No. Okay, so yeah, they kind of like redid this whole paragraph, and we're gonna look at most of it, next time, because it will be page 7. So we'll just finish here. Here again, we have participles, but if before we had participles in the past tense, like the ones that got together, сгрудившихся, or were standing together, the ones that were whispering with each other, шептавшихся. Here we have the present tense, so пролетающих. Пролетающих. Yes, it's ющих and летающих. So the ones that kind of like pass by flying, and the ones that are flying. Он не видел пролетающих сов, которые пролетали мимо. Сов, летающих не ночью, а среди дня. Сов, которые летают не ночью, а днем. Подумать только is also a very good expression for like, can you imagine? Да, подумать только. Средь бела дня, literally in the midst of the white day. Yeah, so literally in the middle of the day. И это уже не говоря о том, что совы лесные птицы и в городах, тем более таких больших, как Лондон, не живут. I think everything is pretty clear here. Okay, I will stop here. So next time we're going to continue to page 7. And I just want to say that if you have any comments or suggestions for me about like how, this setup works, as you can see this time, I'm writing on the piece of paper, and I'm showing you the translation kind of like right in the book. So if you like this setup, let me know if you have any suggestions. I will be happy to hear them. Окей, спасибо, ребята, и до новых встреч.